Hello and welcome everybody to week 2 of the Ris3n Showmatch series. I'm Revolt. I'm joined by my co-host Ris3n.
What's up?
And our lovely players Spore and Kugel. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing good, man. Can't wait to get started.
So we're gonna start this off with a little bit of an interview. So Wrath, what's our first question for these two guys?
Well, just in general, I mean, this is to both of you, Spore and Kugel. Just a general feeling. I want to kind of get a sense of how you think this match might go. Spore, with you being the reigning champion, this question goes to you for you to answer first. What do you think about this match, and how do you think it's going to go?
I think this is going to be a pretty good match. It's a challenge for me personally because Kugel, I have yet to find any success in games against Kugel that are on tournament on a tournament platform. He 2-0'd me the last time we faced off, so I'm eager just to play him, if anything, just to show a little bit of improvement from last time. So yeah.
All right, man. Well, and then Kugel, to you as well, man. What do you think about this match? Did you do any preparation for it? How do you feel about it?
So, the last time me and Spore played was in the VTL internal league.
Yeah.
At least officially. And I was on a bit of a hot streak that week, I won't lie. That was a good week for me. But since then, I haven't been as hot. And
Yeah,
I've heard that
because you've been
playing WoW.
Because I've been playing WoW, exactly. But I've heard Spore's been pretty hot, so I'm actually very excited for this series. Because I'm gonna bring my alls. So
that's good to hear. Well, we hope for a good match. We definitely hope for a good match, and I think you guys are going to deliver for sure.
I'm not underestimating Spore at all, and I know I'm gonna bring my all to beat him because I heard he's been practicing a lot. He's been getting better.
Yeah, he's the reigning champ, so.
Exactly. Of this, what, like the one?
My long range.
So
yeah, no, you have quite a track record to defend here.
So with that said, getting a little bit more specific, a lot of people out there are familiar with the matchup of PvZ. They know it can be a little bit of a volatile one. You know, there's certainly both very strong macro plays from both the Protoss and the Zerg, and very strong all-ins from both Protoss and Zerg. So how are you guys feeling right now about the matchup of PvZ? Going first to Kugel.
Right now, I'm actually okay with it, I guess. Like, I feel comfortable with most phases of the game. Because I'm sort of my goal in PvZ right now is to survive the early game to make it to late game, you know?
Okay,
like,
interesting.
I got my eyes set on the macro in that matchup, sort of.
Interesting.
But that being said, if I'm wrong about it, the ultimate favor goes to the Zerg because he doesn't. Zerg doesn't like the macro.
Right.
Guess, you know?
I'm with you 100%.
So yeah, Zerg OP. Agreed. Spore, what do you think?
Outnumbered by 3 Protoss. I think there are phases of the game. For the most part, the game's pretty. It feels pretty balanced throughout most phases. Protoss is probably a little bit weaker starting off, depending on what build they go. But I think there are pockets where, at one point in the game, one race, depending on the situation, can have a little bit more of an advantage than the other. And it tends to kind of seesaw, you know, like maybe the Protoss has an advantage at this point, but then a minute later, like the Zerg has a power spike, and then the Protoss had a power spike, and then back and forth.
High Templar are good.
Yeah, High Templar good unit.
Fair.
How's that? Yeah.
But I mean, Baneling good unit too, right?
A lot of AoE there.
Very good unit.
Well, that's fair. And then you guys already touched on this here a little bit earlier, but so obviously I think everyone knows now that you guys did meet in the RDL Internal Diamond League that we had, and unfortunately for Spore, that didn't go so well for you. I mean, Kugel, you know, he did take you down 2-0. How do you feel about it going differently this time, Spore? Have you done any preparation, any builds you've been working on what are you going to do different to prevent Kugel from
Keep in
2-0ing
mind
you?
I
In this
am
case,
listening.
4-0ing you.
Yeah, keep in mind Kugel is
Yeah,
listening.
I have to not give too much away, but I think like quoting Day 9, I don't think you have to change very much about your play, like small tweaks. I did review our past games and I saw the things that I was doing terribly and the things that Kugel was doing well. And I will say that Kugel is just an all-around solid Protoss player. There's no tricks. There's no special unit comp that's gonna get him, right. Like basically, he's gonna fight you straight up, and if he has a clear advantage, like he'll take it and he'll kill you with it.
Oh, well, don't suck him off
are you
too
though?
much.
Are
No,
you though,
I
Kugel?
accept that definition of myself.
Yeah, I mean, Kugel, with that being said, I mean, with you not having any tricks here, I mean, what are you going to do to kind of throw Spore for a loop? Because it sounds to me like he's kind of more or less figured you out. Short of a few mistakes that he might have made, you being a pretty predictable player, I mean, what are you going to do? You going to throw us any bones? You going to do something different this time?
I mean, maybe. I also I have been known to do better when I macro and to be foolish when I try other things. So
So no
simply
cannon
put-
rushes.
yeah, maybe not versus Zerg, and also because I've never done one before. But,
Channel your inner Jaden, bro. Channel your inner Jaden.
yeah. No, I mean, I get some ideas. I like Spore said, it's small details of the build that can sometimes come out in big ways, right?
All right.
Absolutely. So
But
we've
that
heard.
being said,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just want to say that I'm going to be focusing a lot on my macro then.
So we've heard a lot about how you guys are feeling about the matchup, about playing each other, and you know me and Wrath, we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty. We want the juiciest of juicy questions. So going to Spore or first, what's your score prediction?
There's a part of me that wants to be honest, and there's a part of me that's really competitive. So there's like two scores
Ooh,
in my
let's
head.
hear the juicier answer.
If I were an objective player, I would say that Kugel has the advantage, and I would probably score it 4-3 Kugel, if not just outright Kugel taking it. But the competitor in my head goes, "Fuck no, I'm going 4-0."
Well, we've heard Spore's answer, Kugel. What's your score prediction for this match?
I think if I can get it to a full series, I might be able to win. But
That's
he's
not a
got
score
tricks up his
prediction.
sleeve. Oh, okay, well 4-3 me.
Okay. I like Spore's answer better. It's gonna be Spore. All right. Well, thank you
I don't
guys.
shoot myself in the foot like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you guys very much for hopping on and doing this interview. I'm going to scoot you on out, throw up our overlay for a sec, and we will get into game number 1 on Cerulean Fall very shortly.
All right. So.
All right. So,
Dude.
Wait, give me a sec. In game. We are live, people. We are waiting for the ready. We have it from both of our players, and we are now loading
The
on
countdown commenced.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Loading screen. Kind of kills the excitement a little bit. Countdown to the loading screen.
Well, you know the new patch is going to have the additional countdown right after the loading screen, which that's going to kind of rehype it all over again. I'm looking forward to that.
You know, the more countdowns, the better for me. All right, Wrath, starting with our Protoss, give us a little bit of an intro here, brother.
Be glad to, Revolt. In the bottom left-hand side, we have our Protoss challenger, whose name means bullet in German. The man with the plan. We have Kugel.
Ooh. Shivers.
I know, man. I can't wait to see it. He's gonna take some names, man. I think it's his time.
All right, now let's hear
In
our
the
Zerg.
top right, in the top right, the Zerg who wrecked the colonies of Marsara last week, the Agent of Blight, and our reigning Showmatch champion, Spore.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh,
Nerding
man.
it up, man. Nerding it up.
Yeah, well, you gotta nerd it up a little bit sometimes. So, Ris3n, we've both played our fair share of Protoss. We're going into a long PvZ series. What do you expect to see from these two guys in the series?
Game one, if for me, I would open up very standard. For Protoss, if it were me, I would open up with the Stargate play, perhaps some Oracle harassment, poking around with an Adept. I would play it very standard economic build. It sounds like, based on the interview, that's what Kugel's comfortable with anyway. For
Yeah,
Spore,
for sure.
yeah, I mean, for Spore, I think it's going to be a very standard play. As you can see, there is a hatch first, right? And then going into the gas and then spawning pool. So I think probably some speedlings, trying to grab a map control, and then maybe expand and take a third right around the 230-ish, give or take, minute mark, and just play a very economic game. You don't want to take any risks on your first game.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are going to see that 2:30 to 3-minute third from a Zerg that signifies, I'm trying to macro, guys. Give me a break. And so far, it looks like, your prediction is correct. Looking at the Protoss base, I mean, everything appears to be in order. He's going, he went Gateway into Nexus into Cyber? Or did he go Nexus first, actually?
No.
No, he went Gateway into Nexus. Okay, so not the most economical, but I would say a safe economical build. And looking at our Zerg player, there are a few Zerglings on the production tab, but mainly it's drones. And you are actually correct here. We do see the Stargate coming up for Kugel.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Stargate's just a solid build, right? You got Void Rays in case your opponent throws any crazy Roach all-ins or Ravager Roach-ins. You got the Oracle when you scout with the Adept to get some really solid harassment in. And, of course, the Phoenix to go Overlord hunting. It's just such a really solid strategy these days for Protoss to forego it. You better have a good plan.
So, interestingly enough, the third base does come up at around 245, right in that range. But well done by Kugel. That probe immediately spots it. So he's kind of clued in to what this Zerg player is going for.
And that's critical information, right? I mean, you want to know what's going on. Is a fast attack coming, or is the guy going to go for more of a macro type game? And that's exactly what he found out.
One Adept coming on into the natural will take out one probe. Will it get a second? And it looks like it will get a second probe. Does not shade into the main, tricks out the queens, and is actually going to get, it looks like, with the Spore cancel, only 3 drones. So I would say 3 drones for your first Adept. That's about even, maybe slightly in the Protoss's favor. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely in the Protoss's favor. 3 drones? I mean, if you get 2, I think you're doing pretty well. If you get 3, man, you're hit the jackpot.
Yeah, I mean, he actually almost got 4, but for a clutch building build. As you know, a lot of people know that Zerg can build a building right before the drone gets sniped and then cancel it, which allows you to keep the drone alive. Well done by Spore to mitigate the damage, but even still, some solid damage done by Kugel, even in this early stage.
Yeah, no, he did a very good job, and I like his Spores too. They're going up. They're pretty quick. He's ready for any kind of Oracle shenanigans. He's got a home base to try and help protect his overlords as well. So.
And I feel like this is something we're going to have to say a few times. Yes, Spore is building spores. We've got it out there. It's funny. We're over it.
Oh, man, that Oracle got 2 drone kills. Did you see that right up there?
I did. 2 drone kills from the Oracle. Little bit of hull damage, and not the biggest of damage, but he does keep the Oracle alive, which is what's important. I mean, if your Oracle dies, you better have gotten 5+ drones. But as it stands, as long as your Oracle's alive, any drones you can pick off are kind of an added bonus.
Yeah, no, I think 2 drones is great.
Take a look here at the middle of the map, if I can ping, which it doesn't look like it's letting me.
Yeah.
But there are 2 drones that got misrallied for Spore, and that's not direct damage that Kugel's done, but even still, like, that's not something you want to have doing.
I mean, he's clearly probably just a little nervous. I mean, Kugel so far is playing a pretty tight game. Already picking off 2 drones with his Adept, another 2 drones with the Oracle. That's very, very strong damage. It's hard. Dude, I tell you, it's hard to pick off drones nowadays against Zerg players. Like, they're so well prepared with the Spore placement and the queens. It's not the easiest thing to do, but Kugel managed to get it done.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You know, these Zergs are getting used to these Stargate openings, which are oh so prevalent in PvZ, and Spore kind of showing us that with with his Spore placement. And as you said, the Queens, it looks like a probe here trying to take a third for Kugel will get sniped off by these 3 Zerglings, but I think that this Oracle will drive the other 2 away, right? Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's looking like it. Oh, they're actually kind of
A
juking it.
little, yeah, a little miscontrol there. Oh, there they
There
go.
they
Okay.
go. There they go.
And
So
there's that expansion. I was wondering when that Nexus was going to go down the third for Kugel because it's a little late. Still within striking distance, but a little late.
So double forage and more gateways coming in for Kugel, but interestingly to note, as soon as he sees that third coming in, we have 9 roaches on the production tab for Spore. I wonder if he's going to try and make a move at that third base.
I think he will. I mean, he should, right? He's got to at least poke, especially if he has roach speed. I think. Well, he's not researching it, right? So he doesn't have it yet. He's definitely not going to get it done soon, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, without roach speed, I don't think he's going to be able to threaten that base too much. I mean, the way it's looking, if I were Spore, I would go ahead and take a fourth, like soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks like
you're not really pushing.
It looks like roaches I don't think are going to be the long-term plan, as we do have a Hydra den with upgrades and a Baneling nest coming up, which I feel like Hydra Bane is like about the most standard of a mid-game composition a Zerg can go for in this matchup. So maybe those roaches are to prevent adept counterattacks or zealot counterattacks. So I think Spore at the end of the day is kind of just trying to play it safe, make sure he doesn't die to, you know, a sneaky warp prism. And in fact, there is that fourth base that you mentioned.
Yeah, I like to see that. That's exactly what he needs. I mean, Zerg you always want to be up a base if you can help it, right? And why not?
Absolutely.
And I like Kugel's upgrades too. Like, look at the upgrades that he's got on the forges. He had double upgrades there going, and Storm's researching. Man, Kugel's playing kind of greedily, but I don't feel like Spore has done anything to punish him. So that fourth base, it needs to be saturated quickly.
Well, starting with the beginning of the game, we've been playing what I'm going to trademark right now and call informed greed. He saw that fast third base with the probe. He scouted in with the Oracle, right? He saw that there's nothing too crazy coming his way, right? He did just enough scouting to know that there would be nothing, you know, super nuts coming his way, and he's played, I think, or responded absolutely correctly with just the right amount of greed.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, right now they're definitely sizing each up pretty well, even though there's not much action on the board per se. It's been all, like you said, it's informed decisions. Oh, it looks like that missile attack is about to be finished just right around the same time as Kugel's upgrades are about to finish up as 1-1.
Ooh, these roaches intercepting a zealot counterattack up on the left side of the map, and these hydras might just pin down this warp prism, and it looks like they will.
Nice pickoff.
Keep in mind, if we look at over at Kugel's army at the third base, he does have 2 warp prisms actually, so it seems like that one was maybe for counterattacking, while he's got another one maybe if he wants to do a push. Little Zergling foray coming into Kugel's third. That's not going to get anything done, though. I think it's more of a scout, if nothing else. But Bane's...
Well, you got to keep the player honest, right? You got to keep the player honest in case there's no cannon there or something.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you know, with Hydra range and Hydra speed finishing up, Baneling speed finishing up, he's got what? Well, let me see. He's got 22 Banelings and a pretty big Ling Hydra army behind that. You know, this fight, I think, as Kugel pushes across the map, is going to come down to his micro and how well he can hit those storms on those Banelings.
He's got a lot of storms. That's a lot of storms. My only complaint is there are no Archons to really absorb those Baneling shots, but man, that's a lot of storms.
Oh, but he snuck up here behind the army. I don't think Kugel knows that he's there. The supplies are about even, but here comes Spore crashing into the side. No storms coming down yet, but here they come. Storms piling on those Hydras, kind of eating them, and I think about an even trade there, no?
Yeah, I agree. I think at first it kind of went pretty well for Spore, but then the storms came down and did what they do best. But yeah, pretty even. Look at the top right. Look at the top right. That Zealots came in the back of the base.
Ooh, those roaches, which it appears are tasked with drop cleanup, are doing a pretty good job. Only 4 drones going down, which, you know, when you're past 10 minutes in the game, 10 drones, not going to really be the be-all, end-all of a game.
Yeah, and 4 drones is, of course, you don't want to lose them, but it's not going to cost you the game.
Yeah, far from it. Hive Tech and the Lurker Den coming down. Looks like Spore might be posturing for a bit of an engage. Kugel's army is split up, though, and these Zealots are dying a little bit unnecessarily. More Banelings coming in. They're getting decent connections. Nice storms, but he's running low on them, and here come those roaches that were defending and are now attacking, and I think that Kugel needs to get out of here.
Yeah, no, this is a very, very good attack. Those Zorglings are going to be trying to surround that Immortal. One does go down. A second one, will it fall?
I think it maybe not. That storm warding away the rest of Spore's army. Needs to get that Immortal in range of the shield battery, though.
Those were really strong storms.
Yeah, for real. He sees those Immortals. His 4th base is coming up, and he desperately, I think, wants to defend it, considering how long the Zerg player has been on 4 bases. He is out of storms, and these Lings might just get us around on this army as more Zealots get warped in. They're going to try and clear these Zerglings out, but more Immortals going down. Nice force fields are killing some of these Hydras, but these Roaches that were on defense kind of standing strong.
Definitely. I think who was pushing the... Yeah, he's pushing him back.
Yeah.
That was a good engagement, man. That was not bad. I thought for a while that Spore was going to get the upper hand, but then Kugel managed to kind of rally his forces, saved his 4th base from falling down and getting canceled too.
And that's such a tough thing to do as a Protoss, as like when you see the pieces kind of falling apart, you know, you're out of storms, your Zealot line has gone down, like the ability to kind of like push the Zerg back, take a minute and buy yourself the time to actually get a workable army again, it's really, really tough to do.
No, it is. You're absolutely right. It's definitely one of those critical moments. I mean, there's several in the game, but the way this game has gone, that was really one of the first true tests of this game. It's going to go long.
Oh,
really
yeah.
nice engagements, for sure.
Both players...
look at all those Banelings. Look at all those
so many Banelings, and actually a bunch of Banelings running into the 3rd base here for Kugel. He sees it, though. I think he's warping in some Zealots, and these Banelings are rallied on in. It looks like these Zealots might kind of do a decent job at absorbing some of them. Shield batteries keeping them alive, and that attack is deflected, but at the same time into the 4th base here comes the brunt of Spore's army. The Banelings are going to come crashing in.
Big army. Ooh.
Oh, 13 probes going down. Here come the storms, actually doing so much work onto Spore's army. A ton of Banelings blowing up, and look at the supply. You know, Kugel lost a bunch of workers, but he took a huge supply lead with those storms.
Yeah, I mean, that was the saving grace at the fact that he took down 13 probes, but that army count, that was heavily, heavily favored for the Protoss player.
Absolutely, and I mean, credit to Spore, he does what all good Zerg players will do, which is, hey, I'm going to push your 4th, I'm going to send Banelings into your 3rd and try and really gut your economy, but Kugel was on top of it, deflected the Banelings at the 3rd, and pretty well handled that attack at his 4th. Here comes an engagement in the middle of the map. Kind of a good spread for Spore, but I think that's an overwhelming army for the Protoss.
Yeah, and this is that scary spot for the Zerg player, right? Like you kind of did some economic damage, but you didn't quite do enough to the enemy army. So now here you are trying to fight this huge, Protoss death ball that's just coming marching up your gut. This could be a problem for Spore.
And up the gut it marches as he's diving on into this 3rd base. Units trying to get produced here for Spore, but more and more the supplies are falling into Kugel's advantage. The army's dead, he's getting in, and he's going to start doing economic damage, Wrath.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many Immortals there. The firepower is so high. The Archons take care of any kind of splash damage that you might need. That base will go down.
And at the same time, he's sending Zealots into the 4th base. Like, he's just hitting them all over. 16 drones have gone down already, and he's just not giving Spore the time of day to like, muster an army to recuperate from this.
Yeah, again, as that saying goes, he smells blood in the water, and Kugel is most certainly up there as a GG. He knew it. He felt it.
GG is called a very back-and-forth macro game in the first map, but Kugel managing to take a 1-map advantage.
Revolt, that was a fun 15 minutes, if I may say so.
Oh, I 100% agree with you, my friend. I mean, there was a point in that match where I thought Spore had him, right when he kind of won that fight in the middle of the map and kind of pushed into the 4th base, or the 3rd base. And, I mean, Kugel managed to muster back, get the storms he needed, and that allowed him to take the game that really wasn't in his favor necessarily the entire time.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kugel held strong, right? He had a few dicey moments, but then, like I said, in the end, he had some economic damage that he suffered, but he managed to keep his army intact. And that's the scary part for the Zerg player, because once Protoss gets to that critical mass where you can't properly surround, or get a good arc on the Immortals with the Hydras and Zerglings, that's when it gets scary, when you can't do that anymore because of Storm and just the army size. And that's exactly what we saw there.
100%. And so, okay, your Spore, you get edged out in a macro game in map number 1 as we load into map number 2. How do you think you bounce back in game number 2? Do you think you do a macro play but try and maybe avoid some of the to be fair, very minor mistakes that he made, or do you think you switch it up entirely and maybe go for an all-in build to try and even out the series?
I'm a very conservative player. I wouldn't change too much if I were Spore. I would go with the economic build again. I think he played it really, really well. He just had a little bit of a mishap there when he, again with the army. I would like to see him try it again. I think he can give it one more go before changing up his build.
Well,
What do you think?
Well, before we continue the discussion, Wrath, as we've alerted in, please introduce our players. You don't have to do the full spiel, but give us the sensual chocolate voice, Wrath. I'm calling it in. We need the sensual chocolate voice.
I mean, I don't have a cold anymore. I don't know if I can
care,
pull it off.
Wrathord. We need it. Your
All
time
right,
is now.
all right, Revolt. Hold on. Let me try this, guys. All right. In the bottom left, we have our Protoss player. In the top right, the very, very pink Zerg. The man who's down 0-1, but never going to give up. We have Spore.
Oh,
I mean, that's so. Yeah, there's a little. Yeah. It's like just imagine me patting you on the back 3 times to let you know it's a safe zone. Okay, it's a safe zone, guys.
Fair enough. But getting back to the discussion at hand, we were talking about whether or not you would mix it up, and he has gone 15 hatch, so it's not like we're seeing a 12 pool or anything, but given the map that we're on, because I think I generally err on the opposite side of you, where you said you're a very conservative player. If I'm playing a series in general, and I know I'm tipping my hand for RDIL Season 2, so if you're playing against me, forget I ever say this, but I generally do not ever like to do the same build 2 games in a row. If I'm going to be playing someone in a series, I want them to be constantly on their toes, constantly dealing with a new build order, a new way that I'm approaching the game, and trying to not let them get in a groove, especially if they've taken an initial map against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't think there's a straight up wrong answer here.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, of course, when you want to keep your opponent on the toes, but I feel like that match, that game, I don't know, it's kind of hard when you're playing the game sometimes, but I feel like Spore really, for many parts of that game, played a little bit better than Kugel. He just had that one kind of critical mistake where his army just didn't take that good engagement, and he paid for it. I think Spore can enforce and power through his gameplay, his economic style, and if he wins this one like that against Kugel, that's when you're really going to have Kugel second guessing himself. He's like, "Whoa, he just overpowered me and did the exact same thing."
Well, that's when it gets interesting, right? When we see that both players can beat each other in a macro game, and honestly, I'm convinced that they can. Interesting to note, though, we're at about 10 seconds after when Spore took his third base, and in lieu of a third base, we have a Baneling nest and 12 Zerglings on the way. So it looks like he's going to do a Baneling bust. Now, Kugel is going Stargate, which means he should have the Oracle available. How do you think he should respond beyond what he's already doing?
Well, first of all, an Oracle is really, really good, but the energy will run out if Spore commits fully to this. Right?
Absolutely. And I think that this can turn into he sees those lings.
He got the Adept too, but he saw the lings, but he did get the Adept, and that hurts. And that's exactly what he needs. He needs that shield battery, at least 1 or 2. They're very, 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 very good against Baneling busts.
Yeah, and I like what Kugel's done. He's gotten a secondary pylon, because a lot of the time you can kind of get checkmated out of the game because your buildings get depowered, and it doesn't matter that you even mustered a decent defense because you just can't get any more units. Here come the Banelings. They've crashed into the first Adept, doesn't even take it out, though, and the second Adept is there, and a shield battery is up. and a second one's on the way. The Oracle hasn't even procced its what is it called, pulsar beam yet, and he's pretty much held this straight off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, now the Zerglings have to run away, right? You have to now make sure that Oracle can't do anything else offensively, right? I know the Zerglings can't really attack the Oracle, but what they can do is you can kind of force the Oracle to stay at the front of the base.
Yeah, so there's a second Oracle coming out, which is the correct decision. It's going to activate its beam, and these Zerglings are pretty much dying for shield damage, a very minor amount of hull damage, while at the same time, in the main, this Oracle gets 5 drone kills. 5. And keep in mind, 5 drone kills is bad, or maybe not bad. It's suboptimal in a macro game for a Zerg player where you're going all out on pumping out drones. 5 drone kills when you're defending an all-in that pretty much fell flat, that's catastrophic amounts of damage.
It is. I mean, this Spore's back is broken at this point, right? This was really, really, really bad. His window of getting back in this game is quickly closing. I mean, what would you say at this point, Revolt? What would you do if you were Spore? What do you do to get out of this?
So this is one of those games where, your window of winning it with the strategy you did is 100% gone. So I think you have to forget it and try and think of like, okay, well, what can I possibly do to get a win here in a situation where I'm very behind macroly. So I would say his best call is to try and scout actively, see when Kugel gets a third base, and as soon as he does, try and pump as many Hydras as he can, and try and keep Kugel on 2 bases. Because if you let him get a third base, I mean, you're just never going to catch back up, right?
Yeah, no, then you're going to have the Protoss economy go into overdrive, and that's... At this stage for the Zerg player, that's going to be GG by itself.
I mean, the economy is already behind. If you let him secure a third base, like you're never going to catch up. You just never will.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the window's definitely.
Do we even have a lair? We don't even have a lair down for Spore. He can't even build Hydras. And there's a Void Ray on the way. There's going to be absolutely nothing to contest that Void Ray. A Void Ray and an Immortal, and what's Spore producing? Roaches.
Well, and Ravagers. Unless those are the most amazing Ravager shots ever. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's even more than that. It's unless he AFKs at the keyboard, because he's building the exact counter to the all-in that's coming. Now, there are decent numbers here for Spore. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but he's going to need some crazy good micro here. Actually, this Immortal might get caught out right off the bat, and needs to get that Void Ray in on the army. Oof. Here come the Oracles activating their beams. The Void Ray's firing down, a huge Zealot warp in coming in, but these air units are firing uncontested while these Zealots are just like, they're there to be meat shields, and that's what they're doing.
Oh man, Kugel just cleaned that up nicely. Those shield batteries still lending their support as well. Getting so much value out of that army. Yeah, this is not looking good for the Zerg player.
No, it is not. And honestly, props there to Kugel for, I think, correctly anticipating the Roach follow-up. I mean, if I was playing, I don't know that I would have thought that was coming. And he got the Immortal, he got the Void Ray, he got everything that he needed to handle the follow-up from Spore.
Yeah, I know he saw right through the plan that Spore had laid. I mean, again, it's tough when you're behind, right? Your initial build didn't quite do what you wanted it to do, and Kugel just firmly shut the door on him. And speed lots too. He might get a few Zealots here.
I think he needs to kite back with these Roaches as they are, actually kind of melting to this background Immortal, but actually most of this army falling down, and I think that this was an unnecessary overcommitment from Kugel.
Yeah, and he just can't lose those queens. He needs to back them up. Those queens did a lot of value for him to try and
but at the same time, in the third base, here come the Zealots. They've gotten 5 kills so far. There are 2 Immortals. They're shredding the Roach count, and I just don't know if there's enough. Even if he cleans this up, so much damage has been done.
Yeah, I mean, the probe drone count is 52 probes to 37 drones.
I think he needs to recall those Immortals. Oh, and he does. Absolutely the correct call there. Knows that they're going to die if he lets them stay, and instead says, okay, I've killed 12 drones. I've cleaned up a lot of the army. if you want to have a fight, we can have a fight on my side of the map with where I can warp in, where I have cannons or shield batteries, and my oracles. Like, definitely the correct call there from Kugel.
Kugel's been playing this game like a champ. I mean, he wants to win this series. It's pretty evident. I mean, his control has been great. His response has been great. And he's really not made too many mistakes either. I mean, he had a little bit of a hiccup there when he was fighting against those queens, but I think he's easily made up for it with how much damage the Zealots got down on the Zerg's third.
Now, there are a good amount of roaches coming into this third base, but with 2 immortals, and he might walk straight into a stasis ward. He does, and it looks like 5 roaches getting taken out of the fight immediately. Archon's being morphed in while these 2 immortals are going to eat a little bit of a bile, but their shield will come up, and this attack is just getting decimated.
Yeah, I mean, the Zealots, Archons, especially those immortals, pack such a large punch against those Ravagers. There just isn't enough of them.
100%. I think that's the answer. There's just not enough here from the Zerg player. Takes out 1 immortal, but at what cost? All of the roaches? And
yeah, no, it's
an offensive pylon even coming in for Kugel.
Yeah, no, Kugel knows. He knows.
The drones have been pulled. They're fighting Archons. That's never a good sign. The Oracle comes in, kills the Queen. Everything going down. 17 workers, as well as the rest of the roaches. And Kugel, I think it's fair to say, has taken his 2-0 lead in this series.
No, for sure. He definitely has. And I mean, if you look at the upgrades, too, I mean, you got the Zealots that already have their 1 attack, 1 defense, right? And the roaches are still working with 0-0. And I tell you, if the numbers aren't that large, Zealots do pretty well against roaches.
GG is called, and a quick 2-0 for our challenging Protoss player.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Revolt, you want to do maybe a quick break, give the players a chance to kind of reflect on their 2 games, and then just kind of pause things for a little while? Or you want to keep on going?
Let me ask the players if they want to take a minute, as they're the ones that need a break more than us probably. But yeah, we can. Spore says he wants to keep going. We'll see what Kugel says. But yeah, like I said, I mean, a series like this can be pretty heart-pounding. Sometimes you need a minute to kind of decompress. So we'll see what our players want. If not after this game, we'll probably take. Oh, they're both good. Wrath, we got some champions here. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Looks like our third map will be Parasite, I believe. Yep.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, it's just tough though. Spore's, he's kind of, his back's against the wall. He's down 2-0. And he played a really, really good first series, and he tried the Baneling bust. It just didn't go well for him. It's tough, man. I mean,
Oh,
it's tough to recover from that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you do an all-in and it just kind of falls flat, which happens sometimes. I mean, it's so hard to force yourself to play out a game where deep down it's like have you ever heard that the Greek proverb of Sisyphus, the guy who's consistently pushing the boulder uphill?
I want to hear more about it from you, actually.
Well, let me see if our players are ready. But pretty much it's the story of this guy who pretty much goes to hell, and his eternal torment is that he's always pushing a boulder uphill, and whenever he gets close to the top, it falls down, and he has to push it back uphill from the beginning. And that's honestly how it feels playing behind after an all-in fails, because you'll be like, oh, I got my drone count back up decently, and then the Protoss hits and you lose 15 more drones, and then you're knocked down into a low eco situation, and then right when maybe you start to stabilize, then the next attack hits and you're knocked right back down. And that's very analogous to the game we just saw.
No, it is. It is. And I think that's the spot that Spore is in right now. So he has to kind of dig deep and figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What builds do I know that I'm comfortable with, that I can execute with a very high degree of efficiency and success? Really, that's what he needs to do. He needs to figure out what works for him. And if that means going back to his economic signature build, that's fine. If he wants to try to do a Ravager all in this time, okay, then do it, but you have to commit to it 100%.
I agree, and you know what, Wrath? We got your sensual chocolate last game, and I'm going to go ahead and hijack that, and I'm going to give you my sensual chocolate this game, okay?
What?
Are you
No,
ready?
okay.
Are
I
you?
can't wait. Bated breath, my friend.
Are you ready? In the top left-hand corner, as the pink Zerg player, we have Spore. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, as the tail Protoss leading to the 0, we have Kugel.
All right, claps. Claps. Well done. Well done.
Follow that up, Wrath.
I mean, I got nothing on that, man. That was just terrific. Oh my God.
We have fun here.
Yeah, you got to make it light, right? You got to make it light.
Oh,
It's getting too
goodness.
heavy there.
Yeah, it definitely was for a minute, but now we've
Well,
like.
seeing how you not kind of turn the tables on me here a little bit with the introduction, I'm going to ask you now. So, Mr. Revolt, the sensual chocolate man, what would you say in Spore's position and in Kugel's position on this here map that we have? What would you like to see the players do? What kind of openings would you like to see them execute?
So that's a very interesting question, and one that I think has different answers, especially on a map like Parasite, because Parasite is a very big map. It's a map that you can get a lot of vision on as the Zerg. There's good spots to place your overlords, and I expect Spore to try and play out a macro game here. And honestly, I know Kugel is a generally very, very macro-oriented player, but if he was going to do an all-in, I think this might be a smart map to do it on.
Ooh, I think Kugel forgot to make a pylon. He's a little supply blocked here.
Ooh, already, the cracks showing a little bit, but
not that big a deal.
Not that big a deal, but
worth
still
calling out.
Worth calling out. Definitely worth calling out. This scouting probe will go down very early. Is not going to see that there is a fast third, I believe, coming up from Spore. So, and honestly, Kugel, same exact build as the last two maps. One gate expand into Stargate.
And from Spore, very economic build. Look at that quick, fast third, right around the 230-minute mark. I like it. I'm in favor. Looks like you were right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It doesn't look like Kugel's going to do an all-in. It looks like he's, he won the last two games on the back of his macro play. So I can't say that I really blame him for kind of sticking to his guns, but I don't know. I think that, especially in a best-of-7 series, it can be worth mixing it up a little bit. So we'll see. You still absolutely can transition into an all-in, even off of a Stargate opener. But, I mean, well, maybe it's not what I would do. I admire that from Kugel. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, Wrath.
Right. I mean, Revolt. It's not like Spore has so far shown Kugel that he can stop it. Right. He can't. He hasn't really challenged Kugel's Stargate economic build thoroughly enough yet to make him go, hey, you know what? I think I need to change it up. Look, and if Kugel goes up here 3-0 with the same build, I mean, then the world is his oyster, right? Then at that point, if you're up 3-0, maybe you throw in something crazy like a cannon rush, or maybe like an all-in of some kind. Oh, look at that probe! Oh, he had to cancel his building. The probe was stuck.
Oh.
Yeah, right around that Stargate
What was
cluster.
it? A gateway?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was. It was a gateway.
Ooh, that's annoying.
Yeah. It looks like Kugel's getting some scouting done with that adept, going to shade into the Zerg's main.
So you know what this looks like to me, Wrath? Looking at the timing of the Twilight and the rowboat, this looks like it's going to be the Archon drop, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of look like that to you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because he should be
Oracle
making the...
Oracle gets completely rallied into the main, doesn't even turn on its beam, and already takes a bunch of hull damage with no damage done yet. Will pick off, it looks like 1, 2. So he does get 2 probes, or 2 drones, but the Oracle dies for 2 drones. Wrath, that is not worth it at all, even a little bit.
No, it's not. And that was a great start. That's exactly what Spore wanted. A couple of missteps by Kugel, showing, like you said, a few cracks in his armor, and now losing that Oracle. It's looking good. Spore has a chance. This is looking very, very good.
Well, cementing the idea that he wants to go for macro play, Double Forge and Templar Archives coming in here for Kugel. He's going to want to get into Storm. He's going to want to get into double upgrades. And with the lair coming in for Spore, I think that these guys pretty much just want to play another macro game.
Yeah, and I why not, right? I mean, that's what they're comfortable with, and especially in Spore's position, seeing how this game opened, I think he's perfectly happy and content with it. I mean, he's still got that overload up front. He knows exactly what Kugel has.
Yeah, he's seen everything, but except this time, you know, he didn't quite take as much damage from those early units at all.
No, no, and it looks like Kugel is going to be taking a third. I like that positioning of that third. I feel like that bottom left position. I can't ping it here on the map, but the one right next to your natural on the left, I don't like that positioning very much for a third. I feel like that one that Kugel took is far better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this one kind of gives you that area that you can sit in where you can defend both your natural and your third, which really just isn't available, you know, if you take the other third. So whenever you have bases that are more compact in defending as a Protoss player, you're happier.
Yeah, and that little raised structure in front of that third too, that's actually kind of annoying for an attacking player because a lot of times it ends up splitting up your forces and can be very helpful for the defender.
Absolutely. Huge amount of drones coming in here from Spore. He's gone up to 61. And he's getting those mid-game upgrades. He's got roach speed on the way. He's got hydra speed. He's got +1. He's seen that, you know, his opponent has taken a third base. And yeah, it looks like we're chugging on along into the mid-game. These lings actually do make it by into the main. Only one actually making it still alive. It's going to die to probes, but he does see the double forge, and he does see the Templar Archives. So I think correctly, he starts getting a bunch of roaches as, you know, Storm, not as good as against roaches as it is against hydras.
No, it isn't, right? Especially if you have high numbers. And this is where I'd like to see with that macro hatch that Spore does have in the main as well. I would like to see him take that gas too. Now I want to see that army composition. Give me some roaches, give me some hydras, give me some lurkers, and let's really stick it to Kugel. See if he can deal with those infamous lurkers, because my God, man, that's a powerful unit.
I know you love lurkers oh so very much, Wrathorn, as a Protoss player. But honestly, I think you're right. I hope Spore does get into them, because honestly, in general, I can't really think of a unit that's tougher for the Protoss to deal with in the mid game than the lurker. Because if you have a decent army to back it up, you can just take a position and hold it, and at the bare minimum, with great storms from the Protoss, you'll trade evenly.
Yeah, you will. No, it's true. Yeah, I think Kugel might have been delayed a little bit. You saw he made that warp prism in his natural, right? But those Archons were inside his base. Those probes are trying to get out of his base, but everything's kind of stuck up in there.
Yeah.
It's been like that for a little while. Kugel's definitely having a few misplays here.
Here he goes, moving those Archons actually out into the natural. Maybe he wants to do a bit of a push here, and it looks like he will. Charge is done. He, correct me if I'm wrong, does not have any storm with this push, but does have a few Archons. But, I mean, look at that Roach Hydra Force for Spore. Do you really think Kugel's going to get much damage done with this?
The way the army size is right now, I think he could, but not the way his army split up.
But not the way that this fight is going right now, as these Immortals are kind of getting into the Roach Hydra, but the Warp Prism does go down. Half the army of Spore actually kind of getting taken out almost for free. 11 more Hydras on the way, but actually he did lose the Warp Prism, but a great pickoff there for Kugel.
Yeah, those force fields were killer, no question.
He is going to try and push up this ramp, but that's going to be tough. There are Hydras on top of the ramp, and Roach and Hydras beneath it, and one Immortal at the bottom of the ramp going down. Throws down a force field, but that doesn't stick, and I don't know. This is a lot of army. If he collapses from the other side, which he has the units to do, I think Spore can defend this, but he needs to get his whole army attacking.
Yeah, his engagement is not exactly the way. It's not on point, right? He's not getting that complete surround. He's engaging with too little units. He needs to wait till he has a larger force, and that's really the fine art of a Zerg player, is knowing when to surround your opponent.
And here we see the first bit of a surround as Hydras on all sides. All of the meat of this army has gone down. There are a few zealots left over, but actually, it looks like neither player wants to fight anymore. And
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to fight with Hydras that have no protection, right? You got to have some roaches up front.
oh, here come the storms in from Kugel. He's got, I think, 4 more Templar, which is 4 more storms, a ton of roaches. Just finishing up. Huge storm comes in. Spore, without those roaches, you cannot fight this. Even small army, my dude. You just can't do it.
I know he doesn't have the proper army. Heck, I'd like to see some Mutalisks or something. Lurkers. He needs some more higher tech units to challenge these Immortals and Templars.
Ooh, another big storm coming in. There is still a Warp Prism. It's going to start warping in more. Pulls back that Immortal before it dies. And it looks like, you know, with a 4th base coming up behind this for Kugel, I mean, Spore, he's just gotten out-engaged here by Kugel.
Yeah, Kugel's definitely has a very good engagement. He's got that Warp Prism reinforcements coming in. He's putting on a lot of pressure.
Now
Spore is so far not able to properly muster his forces and deal with it either.
There is still a bunch of Roach Hydra, but here comes a little bit of engagement, and that engagement just entails a few Roaches going down to Immortals.
He needs to stop giving units away. He doesn't need to engage. It's not like Kugel's pressing a base. He's just out there.
Yeah, I think he's got it a little bit right now with the kiting. Needs to start picking away at the Zealot front line, but another great Immortal pickoff. You know, Kugel's just been on point with his Warp Prism micro. Ooh, an Archon.
Don't get too greedy.
He gets a little bit greedy. The Warp Prism does go down, but he lost a lot of units for it, and I think Kugel might be able to just push in now and maybe break the back of this Zerg player. The Zealots, Archons, and Immortals coming in, more Roaches being rallied out, but I just don't know about this Wrath.
He needs to go behind his buildings. He needs to have as much protection for his Hydralisks, which are really the damage dealers of this Zerg army.
The last Archon does go down, but there are still 5 Immortals holding strong and taking out a few Hydras for free. All that's left is Roaches, and whenever you have Roaches fighting Immortals, it's just not where you want to be at. More Lings and Hydras coming on down, but I think Kugel might just have too much.
He needs to back up, and he needs to rally his forces. Like, you cannot attack that many Immortals that are clumped up.
Another Immortal joining the force. GG is called, and Kugel takes a 3-0 advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Spore just didn't have an answer, right? He didn't know how to engage that Protoss army, and Kugel kind of knew it. And he did really great micro play with the Warp Prism and reinforcing his armies too. Wow. Well, let's go ahead and load up the next game, and then take just a short little break. Get a cup of drink of water, use the bathroom, and we'll keep this bus on rolling, you guys.
All right, I'm gonna throw up our overlay. We will be back with game number 4 very shortly, so be sure to stay tuned as we're gonna be right back. Thanks very much.
Yep. See you later.
So, welcome back, everyone. It looks like we are ready to get into game number 4 here, I believe. We're waiting on party. We got 3 out of 4. I don't know if Spore is back, actually. I did not hear from him, so he might need a minute. But, phew.
We'll get it started shortly. No concerns there. I mean, I don't blame Spore. He needs a little break. Things just haven't gone his way. And I feel like that again, just like game 1. I felt like game 3 that we just saw of the series. I hate to say it, but I felt like Spore was kind of leading the game just a little bit.
Yeah.
But then didn't have the right engagements and just kept giving little chunks of his army away for almost nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it's really tough to engage into a Protoss army that hits as hard as Immortals and Storm do. But at the same time, that's what you got to do if you want to beat a Protoss player of Kugel's caliber. You have to choose your engagements wisely, and you have to engage with your full army. And I think, maybe one or two Spore was 1 or 2 engages away from throwing that army back and being ready to transition into Hive and start pressuring that 4th base of Kugel.
Yeah. No, I think if you had waited just a little bit more to try to mass and let the Protoss player come to you, right? He didn't really have to engage when he did. I mean, he knew it was going to come soon, but and he was on creep, to be fair, for some of those battles. But wait till he attacks, because some of those zealots are naturally going to start hitting the buildings, right? And that's damage that your units are not having to deal with, and that's huge, right? It really adds up. Every shot that the Immortal fires at a building is something that your roaches are not eating to the face, and those are the little advantages that Spore needed to really take a hold of that game.
Yeah, 100%. And even just the positioning, because if you engage in that spot that's, right in between the natural and the 3rd base, there's a huge surround that can happen there. And obviously, as every Zerg player knows, your happiest engage is that where there's a surround, right? The more fronts you're attacking on, the better.
Yeah, no, right. It's very true, Revolt. I mean, the more surrounds, the more angles you can come in at the Protoss player from. I mean, it's just more difficult to manage it all as a Protoss player, right? Once you kind of get that surround set up, and that's not easy as a Zerg player, but once you get it set up, and then you move the units in, and you kind of stagger the units in, this baning is going, and then as a Protoss player, you're like, it's kind of like when the Liberators are shift click for Terrans, right?
Yeah.
It's just really hard to manage it, because then you're like, oh my, where do I storm? Where do I concentrate my Colossi fire? Where do I send my Archons to? It's really difficult.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, a lot of times what ends up happening is you just simply get overwhelmed, right? There's too many Zerglings, there's too many Roaches, too many Hydralisks, which really deal the brunt of the Zerg damage. And Immortals don't do quite that well against Hydralisks straight up, if there's enough of them.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you, and I think that the core concept there of what's happening is you're forcing the Protoss to make a ton of small but critical decisions in a very low amount of time. Like, as someone who throughout Heart of the Swarm and even a decent amount of Legacy of the Void played Zerg, the amount of games I won on pure Roach, focusing on getting good surround, or Roach Ravager in Legacy, getting good surrounds and pretty much taking a favorable engagement, crushing the army, and just going across the map and winning, is probably more than I should have won for the caliber of player I was. Like, if you can go back there and really get all you really need as a Zerg is one good engagement where, 3 of the 5 Immortals dropped, then, you don't have 5 Immortals throughout, the 4-minute period of fighting that we saw, right? That Immortal count is consistently dwindling, and, I think what we saw was a lot of fights happened, but the key units for Kugel stayed alive, right? Those 5
Yep.
Immortals were there. The Zealots went down, but cool, he'll warp in another wave of 10 or 8 to 9 Zealots, And
No, it's true. He kept the most important damage dealing units. Kind of like the Hydralisk is the damage dealer for Zerg. The Immortals then kind of become the damage dealers for the Protoss army, and the more of them there are, it's kind of that, you're tipping the scales in your favor, right? Whoever has more of that unit, it's going to start becoming very difficult to overwhelm them.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going into game number 4 on Acid Plant, I mean, I think if you're Spore, I think that one of the key things to notice is, okay, this guy has opened up Stargate every single game. So if I'm
Yep.
if I'm a Zerg player, right, and I go into a game and I know or scout that a Protoss is gonna be going up into fast Stargate, trying to take a fast third. I think, considering how robust defensively that build is, as we get our first countdown going, I think that honestly the best response is to outgreed them, because you can do that as a Zerg player. You can say, okay, I'm gonna get my spores on time, and I'm just going to drone, because if you're going Stargate first, right, there's going to be a delay before a Warp Prism comes out, before Storm comes out, before Immortals and Colossi come out, and you can really saturate 3 bases and be going into a 4th one before those heavy hitters come on in. But Wrathorn, introduce our players.
Of course. In game number 4, leading the series 3-0 in the top left, we have Kugel.
Dun,
And in the
dun,
bottom
dun.
right, yeah, dun dun dun. In the bottom right, going down, things haven't gone quite his way, but he's still not out for the count just yet. We still have our reigning champion, Spore.
And, you know, one of the things that, as we go into this 4th game, I don't know who's going to win, of course, but one of the things I know about both these players, and one of the things I respect about both of these players, is that they're both guys with a very strong mindset. That is, they're not going to go down, they're not going to lose a few games and be demoralized and, well, I've lost 3, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to lose game number 4. These are both guys that go into every game thinking that they can win. And even if, they've been on a losing streak, or even if, the games haven't been going their way, they're guys that are going to go out and they're going to give it their all in every single match. So I'm really excited. I think Spore might be able to turn it around, take a few maps, who knows, maybe take the series.
I mean, I certainly would like to see him make this into a real contest. I mean, so far, a few missed opportunities by Spore have gone Kugel's way, and I'd like to see him turn it around, because I think really the early game, especially for the mid game, I feel like Spore is doing many of the right things correctly. But then the engagements, that's kind of where he's been struggling. So I'm hoping to see him turn it around this time.
I mean, absolutely. And I mean, being perfectly honest, right? Kugel has taken all these maps, with the exception of game number 2, where, obviously the cheese didn't go Spore's way. Like, all of these have been games where the margin between victory and defeat was relatively low, right? It's not like Kugel did a push, marched across the map, and killed him, and it was like, LOL, get out of my game, right? Like,
No.
I really think that if he makes a few adjustments, Spore can take a few maps off Kugel.
Oh, no question about it. Like I said, and this is, look at that drone going out. So it looks like we're going to have an expansion right around the 240-minute mark. So not too bad there.
Will we, though? Because look at how many lings he's producing. He already has 6 out, and he's producing 4 more.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to have some map control, right? He wants to make sure he can challenge any kind of adepts. Pressure the front a little bit, just kind of poke around. I'd rather see drones myself and
I
queens.
definitely think so. I mean, this is a decent investment early on to think that this could be, actually that second adept spawning on the other side of the wall needs to start attacking it. But, 10 lings, that's 5 drones. That's the equivalent of doing damage, right? Like, if you build 10 lings instead of, 2 lings and 4 drones, that's a decent investment, and it doesn't look like it's really paid off at all.
No, it hasn't. I mean, this chunk of the game didn't go in Spore's favor at all. And you can see it directly in the units tab. There's 32 probes, 27 drones, and by the way, they were just recently made. So yeah, I think Protoss is up just a tad right now.
Yeah, I mean, early game already swinging into Kugel's favor once again. He's kind of checking around with that adept, making sure he's not getting all in. And, I mean, the same exact build coming out for Kugel. He seems to trust this Stargate build very strongly.
I mean, he's had no reason to change it. Why change it? I mean, if Spore comes to the table with something that just directly hard counters it, okay, great. Maybe change it up. But so far, Spore has not come up with an efficient answer to this Oracle play.
Yeah, I mean, Twilight Council coming behind it. I expect to see a Robo relatively soon, and if we do, I mean, this is literally the exact same build from Kugel.
Yeah, hopefully Spore can prevent any kind of damage with that Queen and that Spore Crawler.
So Spore Crawlers are up. The Oracle comes in. It gets 1, it gets 2, it gets 3 drones. Oh, will actually
and he's
take.
Gonna get out.
Yeah, he gets out. Only takes, a little bit less than half of the hull damage. So that's more than acceptable, right? Like you get a little bit of damage done. You keep the Oracle alive. As a Protoss player, you have to be happy with that.
Very much so. I think Kugel handled that masterfully. The way he kind of held position on that Oracle right there next to the gas geyser, the extractor, and picked off all the gas mining drones was perfectly done.
Yeah. I mean, and with another Overlord going down there to that Phoenix, it's supply block Spore. There are no Overlords on the way. The lair does finish up, but I mean, taking a look at the worker count, I mean, Wrath, we have a 3-base Zerg that's down on workers to our Protoss player.
Yeah, no, you're right. And he's
the
currently
Dropper Lord,
supply dropped.
The Dropper Lord gets scouted immediately. That's going to do no damage.
Oh man.
So
all the things that went right for Spore last game have gone wrong for Spore this game, right? I mean, it just all the little things that he had in his favor is just going totally. The wind is blowing the opposite way.
Absolutely, and I mean, I hate to say it, but it looks like Kugel's just got his number in this match.
Yeah, and he's going to pick off a Queen there.
Picks off a Queen, might get another, needs to transfuse, does hit the transfuse, nice. Does get one of the Oracles, so great play there from Spore. I think probably a necessary play, because, I mean, with 2 Oracles marauding around, I don't care if you have a Spore Crawler. As someone who's played a lot of Protoss, even if there is a Spore, if I have 2 Oracles, I'm confident in getting at least 2 or 3 drones, right?
Yeah, no, and I feel like Spore is, deciding, he's like, hey, look, I'm going to try and pressure that third. I don't know if he's in any real position to do that. Like, he's taking so much economic damage.
I think, so looking at the play, this time, there is no Void Ray. The Robo is still about 15 seconds from completing, and he's got a bunch of roaches, right?
Like, he needs to go now. He needs to go right now.
I think I agree. He needs to go, and he needs to go now. Here comes this roach attack. The Oracle comes in. He needs to get some kiting done, but I don't know. This Oracle's dealing a lot of damage. The Zealots are getting decent surface area, and they might kind of hold strong briefly, but it looks like this attack is going to be deflected. There's no kiting coming in, and I think you have to.
Yeah, no, I feel like maybe Spore is...
He looks a little rattled.
Yeah, I think the first 3 games did rattle him a little bit,
Oh, kind of sneaks a few lings in there. A clutch warp in there from Kugel to block him off. But there's a cannon in the main. No damage is going to get done.
Battery.
No damage is going to get done. More lings are streaming across the map, but with how many Zerglings or how many Zealots there are, this is going to get nothing done.
Yeah, what's he... So he's just like moving everything in across the map?
I think
maybe a little misrally?
I think he feels like he has to get damage done, which, I'll be honest, he kind of does. Look at Kugel's third base, already more saturated than the Zerg's third, but I'll tell you what, taking a gamble, which I think needs to be taken, we have a hive already on the way for Spore.
To make what? What's he going to make? Broodlords?
Ultralisks? Broodlords? I would think it would be Broodlords, right? He knows that with having seen these roaches, he has to think that Kugel will go into Immortal, so I think it's going to be Broodlords.
Does he have the gas investment for that? I mean, he's just now starting his gas extractors on the third. I mean...
Yeah, he really isn't on enough gas to really get into either hive tech. It looks like he's going to poke into the third here with some roaches, get pushed back. He does have a Ling force on the other side that's going to try and dive into the natural, but that's blocked by a Zealot and an Immortal, but the Zerglings force their way on through.
Yeah, that's actually pretty nice, but that cannon placement is so well done.
Oh, and the Zerglings are all aggroing onto the cannon that's protected by... No, not protected by shield battery, but only one Zergling can attack at a time, and all these Zerglings, for as good as getting them in was, they're just all dying to one cannon.
That is a masterful cannon placement, I have to say.
And meanwhile, by the third base, that army of Spore is just getting absolutely shoved back. Pretty much, if maybe one probe went down, but look at the supply. Just look at the supply. That's all you need to see.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the active forces kind of, paint the picture too. I mean, Protoss has a bigger army in both gas and mineral count by quite a bit. This is looking very, very grim for Spore. It continues like this, he's not going to be our reigning champ.
I do not think so. I think he really needs some crazy plays because Kugel has recognized that a lot of Zerg units have gone down and is playing very defensively, which is what he needs to do because he has the army to defend.
Well, yeah, he has the army to defend.
Oh, and he might have the army to go kill him now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that critical mass of units again, and I think if he just presses the advantage now, there's not much that Spore is going to be able to do about it. He just doesn't have the numbers now.
So Ling's trying to cancel that fourth base, but it looks like Warpins of Zealots and Adepts will protect that. More Hydras coming in, and keep in mind there is only one Templar with, I think, one Storm with this army. So this isn't a super storm heavy composition. A Spire's going down, which means it is going to be Broodlords, but he needs to survive.
So far away.
He needs to survive to get there first. Getting a little bit of preliminary damage on the Zealots at first, that is good. Most of the stuff's going down. That storm is huge. Only one storm available, but it is a big one, and I don't think this Protoss army is going to stop Wrathorn.
No, it's not. I mean, it's absolutely not. Now the nice fourth shield, he's going to try and press into the main. Zerg just doesn't have nearly enough units to stop this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the Archons going down, Ling's trying to flood on in, but this Hydra count is rapidly dropping, and it looks like this army just is too much by just a little bit. The Evo chamber goes down before any upgrades can come in, and it looks like the Ris3n Showmatch series is the series of 4-0s so far.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. We'd always like to see a complete series, but maybe he can hold this up and still surprise.
Okay, so actually, as we say it, he does hold the push. He does hold the push. Everything, all of that army does go down, and there is a greater Spire on the way. So, maybe?
I still feel like it's way too late.
Oh my gosh, looking at that army, 4 Templar, so many Zealots and Archons, and 2 more Immortals on the way. I mean, I think that A, Spore shouldn't be pushing, and B, if he does, he needs to survive to Broodlords and hope that he can tech his opponent out of the game.
Yeah, no, right, because Broodlords by themselves do very little. Broodlords protected by a lot of Hydralisks, however, that's a different story.
So say he retreats now, which it looks like he's doing. He gets out 4 to 6 Broodlords. Oh, actually, there is an engagement going down, and the Zerg army is kind of melting. 2-2 for the Protoss versus 0-0 for the Zerg. He needs Broodlords. If he's going to have any chance at fighting this army, he needs Broodlords, and I think he needs more than 5 of them.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the economy to really support it.
So he does have a little bit of a gas bank, is starting to mine some minerals here on the 4th base, but a huge Zealot counterattack going at the 4th base while there's an engagement in the middle of the map. A decent one for Spore, but he just doesn't have the army that he needs. Forced to retreat while that Zealot wave starts to hit his 4th base. The Queen will go down very quickly. More Zealots coming into his 3rd base, and 7, 8, 9... 10 drones going, all the drones at the 4th going down. The Zealot wave comes into the 3rd. It's going to get cleaned up, but while it gets cleaned up, Kugel takes a dominating position.
He does for sure. I mean, he's going to press the advantage on the 3rd.
Oh, Storm.
Storm's going down. Oh, kind of a mixed bag there, but another second Storm goes around. Right on top of the 3rd Storm, right on top of the Hydras. That's it.
G is called.
Ooh, man. I mean, Kugel. What? He just played this so well.
Wow. What a performance. What a performance from our Protoss.
What a performance, indeed.
4-0. So week 1 we had Spore crushing Aiden 4-0. Week 2 Kugel turns the favor to Spore and beats him 4-0.
I mean, he earned it. I feel like Kugel played just a little bit sharper than Spore this time. Not saying, I mean, Spore will be back, don't get me wrong. We saw how well he played the first time around, and he had a few, again, I feel like he could have taken at least 2 of those 4 games that he played, he could have won. And what a difference that would have made, right? He would have been tied up now, but hey, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, some days you're on and some days you're not, and it just seemed like Kugel was able to kind of move and shake a little bit and keep Spore off balance for almost the entirety of that series.
Yeah, no, I mean, ultimately it just shows that Kugel's knowledge on how to engage the Zerg army is just a little bit sharper at this point than Spore's. That's kind of what I got out of this match. No pun intended or anything, but the way that kind of was put together, Spore had some really good economic gameplay. I felt like in many ways it was better because when Kugel was like expanding, like he didn't take his third, like he took his third after he got like the forges, the double forges, after he got the Templar archives and whatnot. So he was really teching really heavily before getting his third. Meanwhile, Spore a lot of the times had his third up right around 2 to 3 minutes, and in many ways I felt like had the stronger economy, but then the engagements is really where Spore was kind of falling short, and Kugel was able to take advantage.
Absolutely, and I'm going to throw up our overlay real quick, make sure Kugel is ready, but stay tuned because before we close out for the evening, we are going to have a little bit of a winner's interview with Kugel. So be right back. I'm going to throw up our overlay, and we will be with you shortly. Thanks everybody for staying tuned. I am joined here not only by my co-host Wrath, but with the winner of that 4-0 series in Kugel. And first of all, I just got to ask, how are you feeling with that victory, Kugel?
Feeling pretty good. I wasn't expecting to dominate in such a fashion by any means.
Well, you certainly earned it, man. I mean, you played. Just, I have to say, I think the one thing that stood out to me, and this is going to sound kind of cheesy, but that cannon placement, was it on Acid Plant, where Spore had a few run-bys with Zerglings, that cannon placement kind of behind your Stargate, I think it was, and your Assimilator, dude, that was masterful.
Yeah, really well done. So the first question I have for you is, and you kind of tipped your hand almost a little bit in the preview interview when you talked about, as I know, and as now the audience knows, you're very much a macro player, and we saw you open up with that One Gate Expo Stargate opening in, I believe, all 4 of the matches. Is that your like every game go-to build?
Basically, unless I see it not giving me what I want, which is a little bit of eco damage, but mostly scouting tech and how much Vespene he's getting. I was a fool with a couple of them, like I usually am. I route them too far into the base. And
Well,
then
I think
just
that only
forget about
happened to
them.
you once, luckily, on the Parasite
Yeah,
map. But all the other,
yeah, on Parasite.
yeah.
And then I do get a little bit greedy with them, so. But yeah, they you know, they're not intended to do too much damage. It's just a safe opener because I don't feel safe going Twilight generally. I just feel like it's too much of a give. It's like, you know, they see the stalker, they know basically you're going Twilight, and then it's either, I feel like it's either a charge lot or DTs because you're sacrificing so much visibility otherwise, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's just I feel safe basically.
Well, following up on that same question too, like with you doing that build pretty much 4 games in a row, and I don't blame you. I personally, as a Protoss player, love the Stargate opening, but what were some of the things that you were kind of afraid of with that opening? Now you kind of shown your hand to Spore 4 times in a row, and I don't think he ever truly took advantage of it. But what is something that you kind of fear with that build when you open it up against Zerg?
Oh, a lot of things. What don't I fear? I'm not really afraid of roaches because you can pretty much just build.
Yeah.
I think we blue.
Yeah, blue shift where you got the void ray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had like my units were out of position. I had my main open, and like half of them died. But I had just finished charge, and yeah, I had a void ray. So it was like, you know, good times there. But banelings, like quick banelings with that build are a little bit scary if I'm behind it all, or I don't know, if you just don't go roaches and just say, yeah, I see what you're doing, I'm just gonna defend and macro up really hard because it forces the game into my hand again.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but what you showed with those Stargate openers in every match was a way to, whether it was with the Oracles or with Zealot Warpins via a Warp Prism, but kind of find a way to get the game into your tempo advantage, if that makes any sense. Is that something that you think is like critical to PvZ right now, or is that more just how you play your style?
Oh, I think that's probably critical in every matchup, right? But like, yeah, it definitely fits my style because if I don't feel the tempo of the game, then it's, you know, yeah, I like to bring it into my court because I like to play defensively until I have that opportunity, you know. But I've been working on creating that opportunity a little bit more, like you said, with warp prisms and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
absolutely.
build
Yeah,
a
no,
warp prism.
I agree. I think something that I really noticed is like your defensive play was just very, very spot on. And then you kind of got that critical mass army, and then that's the time period when you also start doing the multi-prong attacks around the back with the Zealot Warpins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of my go-to mid game right there. Is once I establish my third, get things nice and sexy there, you know.
Okay. So I mean, ladies and gentlemen, something you heard it here first from Kugel. Like something he fears is Zergling/Baneling all in. I mean, you have to commit to it, and I can tell you that it's a problem as a Protoss player. So, but luckily he had the shield batteries up. But even then, enough Banelings, and you're shaking in your boots.
Also, if you're really good at faking an all-in, you can make a Protoss just commit a little bit too hard to defense, and then by the time you know it, the Zerg's already got 3 saturated bases, and you're like, well, I thought you were all-inning me. Shit. You know, because if you can keep that early adept back, you know, until the scout comes, until the oracle comes out.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like PvZ especially is a matchup where scouting can be critical, because if you, like you said, a lot of Zergs will kind of feign an all-in or feign macro with that third hatch and transition into an all-in, and if you don't see, you know, if they go 3 hatch and Ling Flood, or, you know, if they go a quick 2 hatch and kind of feign like they're going to do aggression, like if you make the wrong call there, you can end up behind either way.
Yeah, no, my biggest fear is that they're just confident in their macro and that they don't feel the need to pressure me, and that they're just gonna build a shit ton of lurkers, because that's always, even if I can kill them, I'm not gonna trade well against them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it would suck
because if I see the
to
Hydra Den, I'm not gonna build the double robo immediately. You know what I mean? You go from not needing a shit ton of immortals and like being okay with the high Templar to actually needing like as many immortals as you would need against a roach mass.
Yeah, I mean, it would suck to have to engage like 18 lurkers. I agree.
It really sucks, especially on like blue shift or something where you just
Especially
can't
on blue
maneuver
shift or
around them well.
something. Oh gosh, yeah. So, I think I just have. Do you have any more questions, Rath? Because if so, I have two quick
No.
ones to round us. So, two quick ones to kind of round us off. First of all, I mean, I'll be completely honest, and you know me, Kugel, especially with you. I'm, in general, hypercritical of your play and only want to point out the negatives. But I'll be completely honest. That was a dominating performance you put in PvZ. Do you consider PvZ your best matchup? Or do you think you played well on the day? Or what do you think? What do you think is the key reason for your victory today?
No, I don't think it's my best matchup. I think I played really well today.
It's
for
not
how-
even his best matchup. Wow.
It's my best
He's
matchup.
not known for his modesty. He's not known for his modesty.
It's actually my worst matchup, you know.
Oh God, no! You want to watch me play? You know how I play against Terran. I can't do that. But, you know what I mean. I played better than I should have today.
Fair.
Based on
Fair enough. So we're going to wrap it up with one final question, Kugel. And as I mentioned in our pre-match interview, you know me and Rath, we're kind of jackasses. We like to, stir the drama.
Yeah, you gotta stoke the flames,
you gotta
right?
stoke the flames a little bit. So I just have to ask you, what message do you have to whoever comes out as the challenger for next week? If you could say one thing to whoever you're going to face next, what would it be?
I don't know, just off the top of my head. I'd say hi. And then I'd say I'd say you're going down.
There it is.
I
There
tell
it
them
is.
I'm gonna bring him to Pound Town.
Well,
Bring their mom, then I'll bring their mom to Pound Town.
oh goodness.
How's that?
There it is. There it is. So,
oh wow, well said, man.
whoever comes out next
First,
week,
I'm gonna say hi.
yeah,
Do that.
watch out for the greeting. Whoever comes out next week, it is a ruse. He is trying to apparently take both you and your mother to Pound Town. So I'd be on the lookout for that. But
Well, with that, I just want to say thanks, Revolt, for helping co-cast this, man. We had a lot of fun together. I don't know about you, but that was a blast.
oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
tons of fun.
Like I know it was just a 4-0 series, but I still feel like it was just so much fun. Cool. Thanks for coming out and playing. Thanks for being a good sport and doing the interviews with us as well. Spore, thank you very much for playing. You still are the week 1 champion, so I'm sure we'll see you again soon. And
Yeah.
again, thanks for all the viewers too. I mean, we'd love to see you come out here, support us, cheer us on, give us some feedback as well. See things, some things that maybe we can do a little bit better. And I also want to thank the Ris3n community as well for making this possible and helping us cast this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the feedback that we've gotten from the community and the support that we've gotten has been hugely positive. And I mean, I don't know about you, Rath. I'm sure you agree, but I mean, it's awesome to see us trying to create content and the community really giving back to us. So a huge shout out to you guys there at home. I'm talking to you,
sure.
person who's looking at their monitor, listening to this right now. I'm talking to you.
That's not creepy at all, man. Well, anyway, yeah, sure. No, it is absolutely.
We already did our sensual chocolate voices, Rath. We're well past creepy at this point.
Yeah, we're not gonna do it a second time. No, I know it's good. We're not doing it.
Will we though? Will we though? Will we though?
Maybe we will.
But,
well, anyway, we do have more content in the works.
Yes, we
Revolt
do.
and we are still in the works of trying to figure out all the kinks, figure out the schedule. And then, of course, we'll have the next show match coming up next week. The exact date we don't have right now, but we do know it's going to be next week. Yeah, to be determined.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Tomorrow night, are we still doing the replay cast?
Tomorrow, no, probably not. I would say it's going to have to be a different day.
All right, so we'll just say we'll talk about this off stream, obviously. Stay tuned to the Ris3n Discord for updates, as we will have more notes as to when the Ris3n replay cast, as to when Kugel will be defending his throne. We try to use the Discord as the best way to keep you guys posted. And believe me, you will be notified as soon as we know the dates and times of what we're doing.
And if you watch this stream and you saw Kugel play and you think that you can crush his ass into smithereens, by all means, come on out. Let us know. We want to hear from you. We want to cast your game. We want to cast your match against Kugel. And
we want to see you 4-0. We want to see you 4-0 Kugel. I mean, so far we've had all 4-0s. I kind of want. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't like Kugel very much. I'd love to see him get 4-0'd.
If you're the person to make that happen, please come on down.
Show yourself. As again, there's nothing that would make me happier than to see Kugel decimated on the field of battle.
Well, maybe if he was a Terran player, I'd be happier with that.
Fair enough.
Amen.
Fair enough. Well, thank you to everyone who's tuning in, both live and via the VOD. I think that is all from us. Any final words from the two of you before we sign off for the night?
Drink your milk, eat your carrots, be healthy, take a jog, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, you've heard that, and that's what's the best about this cast is not only do we produce cool StarCraft content, but Wrath always chimes in at the end and gives you the IRL advice that you need. So follow it, boys and girls. Follow it.
It's the gospel.
It's the gospel. That's all from us here from Wrath and Revolt. Thanks to the Ris3n community. Thank you to StarCraft 2 for being an awesome game. We're signing out for the night. Have a good one.
Later.